It happens to everybody. Something hard or terrible is done to us, or just fortune and circumstance itself, you know, makes us run into something that is extremely difficult to deal with and to overcome. I think most oftentimes this happens when somebody does something to us that we do not like, or does something to us that imposes an obstacle in front of us. I think naturally every human being's first response is to become a victim, to say, this was done to me, this is their fault, I am not responsible for this. I am a victim. Something was done to me. And although something was done to you, although someone or just the universe itself has imposed something onto you that is very difficult to carry, you cannot fall or accept that you are a victim to this. The ultimate unstoppable mindset that you must have, that I think one should assume, is to accept responsibility for whatever is done to you. And in doing this, in accepting responsibility for whatever happens to you, you are then in charge of getting over the hurdle, the obstacle, or dealing with whatever it was that was done to you. You are in charge of overcoming it and getting rid of it and moving forward stronger. Now, this is something that may not sit well with a lot of people, and that doesn't sit well with a lot of people, is accepting responsibility for something that isn't your fault. But I think accepting responsibility and responsibility and fault are two different things. And I think we most often push them together, which makes things difficult to deal with. I think if we can learn to separate those two things, we can then move forward stronger and not be overwhelmed or carry a burden that's too much for us going forward. If someone does something to you, it may be their fault. The consequences may be, or no, not even the consequences, just the action itself it's their fault. But you are responsible for handling whatever it is that was done to you and handling the consequences. You cannot accept that you were a victim and lay down and cry and just play the victim card. That is just one of the most counterproductive things you could possibly do. You will get nowhere being the victim, no matter what it is. I know terrible things can be done to people on this earth, but no matter what, you cannot just accept the victimhood that may be imposed upon you. You have to take responsibility for everything that happens to you. And if you can truly incorporate this mindset into your life, if you can truly take responsibility for everything that happens to you, you will become unstoppable. Because when you do make that decision mentally, that mindset shift, when that happens and you accept that you were responsible, you then are in charge of dealing with the consequences. You are in charge of handling it and moving forward and eliminating that obstacle. And that is an extremely powerful transition once you fully accept it and once you're fully in that mode. When you take responsibility for everything that happens to you in your life, you no longer complain. You no longer play the blame game. You no longer fall circumstance to victimhood. All of that goes away. You were responsible for everything, and it gives you this energy that you didn't have before. So many people blame their circumstances on others because they choose the victim card. They blame their circumstances, the consequences they face in life, all outwardly. They blame it on everybody other than themselves, when the truth is that they are actually at fault for their circumstances because they refuse to take responsibility for handling what is happening to them. And I think that's something that's really important to understand and realize, is that everything that's bad that's happening to you, you have to redirect it from thinking that it's coming externally and understand that it's actually coming internally. Everything that's wrong with your life is your fault. It's because you didn't take responsibility for handling it and you blamed others. And that may be a hard pill to swallow, but if you can take a second and understand that, you will become unstoppable, assuming responsibility for everything in your life. Even stuff that is nothing to do with you, that was not your fault. Being born without a leg, or being born without an arm, or some deficit, or something that hinders you from operating fully like other people. Taking responsibility for the fact that fate, that fortune, threw that arrow through your chest. Taking that arrow out, moving forward, saying it is my responsibility. I am in charge. I have to get this done. I have to handle this. That is extremely powerful, and it takes a strong mindset and a strong mind in general to be able to fully assume that mindset. But once again, if you are able to assume that, if you are able to avoid being the victim, nothing will be able to stop you. That was basically what I wanted to talk about this week. Being immune to fortune, assuming responsibility, and absolutely at all costs avoiding being the victim is extremely important to achieving what you want to in life. I hope this was able to help somebody, because it helped me once I shifted my mindset to that. And there are still things that are difficult for me to assume responsibility for, things that I feel like are imposed upon me, and to assume responsibility for that is a difficult thing, but over time it does get easier and you do see the results. I appreciate you listening. I hope I was able to help.